It's been a really expensive summer for me, and the property I'm trying to sell in Indianapolis still hasn't sold. We actually just had a buyer fall through, so more on that in just a second.
It's free real estate.
Well, you gotta bring furniture, but the house is free.
2 bedrooms, no rush.
But this is going to be another update in my net worth series where every month on the first of the month, I go through any changes to my net worth as I attempt to reach a $1 million net worth, ideally by the time I reach 30 years old. Right now I'm 26. If you're interested in following along, then definitely subscribe so you don't miss any future updates. But this summer I've been spending a good amount of money between a few larger items, one of them being my roof. I got that replaced, and I actually had quite a few headaches with that because when my roof was being replaced, the roofers removed the old roof, so there was no roof on the house, which makes sense. You have to do that to replace the roof. But while the roof was completely uncovered, it started to rain, so all the water got into my attic, and then we had to do this whole remediation process, and it totally sucked, and it took forever. I didn't have to pay for the remediation, thankfully, since the roofers were on it, and the company took care of it as they should have, because it was their mistake, but it was a very avoidable mistake. And this marks the second time I've had a serious water issue in my primary residence, with the last one being in Chicago when I first moved into that townhome, and then the whole basement flooded because there was a giant hole in the main sewer line. So I must have the Midas touch. But thankfully my house no longer sounds like the inside of a World War II bomber. But all that said, it didn't really affect my finances too much, although it did take up a lot of mental energy that I really didn't want to spend towards that. And other expenses this summer include a couple of trips to Chicago, as well as an upcoming trip to Europe that I'm taking with my wife, so all these things are just kind of adding up, and they've been pretty substantial expenses for me. And on top of that, I've had some pretty tough months with my steam cleaning business that I bought back in January, with some pretty substantial losses in a couple of months, so that's been expensive to kind of weather. And all of this has been happening, I've been launching my law practice and have been building up my book of business there, and that has gone pretty well so far, especially considering how little time it really has taken to get a decent pipeline going of legal work. And I did mention how I'm still trying to sell my Indianapolis rental property. It still hasn't sold. I would have expected it long ago to have sold months ago, but delay after delay combined with a buyer falling through means it's now back on the market, and we're getting offers now to start the whole process over again. But I'll talk a bit more about that on the other side of the numbers section, so let's go ahead and get into this month's net worth numbers. As a reminder, last month our net worth was just short of $153,000. As always, let's start with the good stuff, the assets. There wasn't a whole lot of action here. Really, all that's been happening is I've been having cash come in, and then it goes right out to be spent towards business expenses, debt pay down, and a number of things. It's not really going into building a lot of extra assets at the moment. I'd like to change that in the near future, which would require better performance from the steam cleaning business, as well as probably me bringing in more legal fees on the law firm side of things as I acquire more clients and get into more transactions. And I'd also like to have a few months where I'm not spending many thousands of dollars on a bunch of big expenses. One thing I am anticipating in the next few months is having this business loan get converted back into cash. That should happen again in the next few months, so that'll be nice to bring some liquidity back into the picture, although I don't have any liquidity problems at the moment. And whenever the Indianapolis rental property sells, I should have a lot more cash that will then be used to pay down debt almost immediately. At least I plan to use the vast majority of the purchase proceeds towards debt. But we have to close the sale first. All told, that leaves me with just shy of $1.3 million in assets. And now onto liabilities. Similar to assets, there weren't a whole lot of changes here in that I was just making my minimum payments, which has been the theme for the last few months, making the minimum payments on all these loans, or at least I'm not paying a lot of extra over the minimum, so you're seeing mostly kind of natural principal pay down with a lot of these loan balances. We're anticipating my wife's student loans to kick in very soon, unless there is another magical helicopter money or can kicking program that comes in to kick the can further and further down the road. Once again, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens, but I'm not going to count on it because you never really know. But after the Indianapolis property sells, the plan is to eliminate that promissory note, and then the leftover will probably just go towards cash, if not even more debt paydown. But like last month, I had about $3,200 in principal paydown, which brings my total principal paydown for the year to around $53,000, which is pretty short of the pace line to reach my goal of $200,000 in principal pay down by the end of the year, but there's still quite a bit of time to go. But in the meantime, that leaves us with around $1.14 million in liabilities, which means our net worth has fallen to just over $152,000, which is a decrease of about $800 from last month. Our debt ratio is 88.25%, and our passive income remains at about $600 per month. So it was another relatively stagnant month. The main items I'm thinking about right now when it comes to my finances would be, one, selling the Indianapolis property. I just want to get this thing off the books, convert it to cash, use that cash to pay down debt, and that'll be a nice day. But another thing is getting the steam cleaning business in a much better spot. We're making some major changes right now with bringing on more people to try and really take the business to the next level, and I think that'll be really great for the long run, as well as for kind of the medium term as well, and getting sales up and really just, again, taking the business to the next level and putting it in a much better position. I plan on talking more about that on the channel in the near future. But the third thing is to continue putting effort towards my legal practice and bringing in new clients, meeting new people who I could potentially help, and trying to keep that pipeline of deals coming in and trying to make a good impression with the people that I am working for, because that's how I could eventually get referrals or more business in the future and continue to build my practice that way. It's a major opportunity I have in front of me right now, so I want to make sure I keep pushing on that lever. But either way, there are a lot of things to work on. But with that said, if you like this video, definitely subscribe so you don't miss future updates, and I'll see you in the next one.